hold everything. We've got some breaking news in the search for Nancy Guthrie. You're going to want to subscribe and smash that notification bell for this. Seriously. Turn on all your alerts. Because what the FBI just revealed about their tip line isn't the story of a case going cold. It's the story of a case taking a sharp, calculated turn. And let me tell you, when the feds make a public messaging shift this surgical, this deliberate, it's a signal that something huge is happening that most people haven't caught on to yet. On March 5th, a Fox News reporter named Matt Finn posted on X exactly what the FBI had told him. His post said, quote, "The FBI tells me tips have tapered in the Nancy Guthrie investigation, and it's still asking anyone with leads or information to call the tip line." End quote. Those two little words, tips tapered, absolutely blew up the true crime world. Every forum, every comment section, every social media feed was on fire, and the reaction was immediate and, it turns out, completely wrong. Everybody assumed the case was losing momentum, that the public was bored, and the investigation was on its last legs. But that take could not be more off base, and tonight we're diving into exactly what's really going on. To truly grasp the situation, you need to hear one number that completely reframes this entire narrative. In the first few weeks after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, between 40,000 and 50,000 calls and tips absolutely flooded the Puma County Sheriff's Department and the official FBI hotline. 40,000. There were single 24-hour stretches where they got as many as 4,000 calls, especially after they released that doorbell camera footage of the masked suspect on February 10th. Now, let me paint a picture of what that kind of volume actually means. Every single one of those calls has to be answered by a human being, who then has to listen, log the details, categorize it, flag it if it's important, get it to the right team, and check it against all the existing evidence. Not a single call gets ignored. Not one tip gets filed away without review. That's not just some secretarial job. That is a logistical nightmare of epic proportions. It's an undertaking that devours thousands upon thousands of investigative man-hours. CNN's senior law enforcement analyst, Josh Campbell, basically spelled it out in a way that changes the whole conversation. He made it crystal clear that in a kidnapping case, where the clock is always ticking, burying your investigators under an avalanche of useless leads is not helpful. It actively grinds the important work to a halt, and the FBI backed this up in the most direct way imaginable, by putting out an official statement telling the public to only send in serious, detailed, fact-based information. No more sending our prayers to the family. No more wild personal theories. And no more emotional messages. The FBI wasn't asking people to stop caring. It was asking them to start thinking. They were shrinking a funnel that had 40,000 people screaming into it down to the one quiet voice that actually matters, the one person who truly knows something. Because here's the unvarnished truth of where this investigation is right now. The FBI is done with theories. They're not looking for your gut feeling, or some brilliant idea you posted on Reddit at 3 in the morning. They are looking for a face, a very specific face they caught on that doorbell camera on February 1st. A face that their top tech geniuses have been analyzing frame by painstaking frame. And what the investigators have managed to pull from that footage is incredibly specific. In fact, it's the very foundation their entire new tip strategy is built on. The case isn't cooling down, it's zeroing in. The information extracted from that camera footage paints a picture that is anything but blurry. Apparently, the eyebrows you can see through the eye holes of the ski mask have a very distinctive shape, a unique arch, and a specific thickness. They are absolutely not generic in any way. Forensic guys took a look and confirmed it. The mustache is black, and you can totally see it peeking out from under his mask, which clearly wasn't doing a great job covering his whole mouth area. As for his height, we're talking somewhere between 5'9" and 5'10", so nothing super special there. But it's the whole package, the way this guy carries himself, that really stands out. A former top FBI profiler, Mary Ellen Toole, pegged it as a calm, seasoned vibe like he's done this before. Suddenly, all these little details snap together to form a very clear, very recognizable image. Then there's the pinky ring, which you can spot even with the heavy-duty gloves he was wearing. Pumac County Sheriff Chris Nanos even went on the record to confirm that little piece of bling. And let's talk about the holster, because it's not some off-the-shelf police gear. It's a very particular setup, worn in a strange way that screams either very specialized training or a personal habit that's been drilled in for years. So, former FBI agent Jennifer Kofundifer took all these clues and basically laid out the new game plan for catching this guy. She put it bluntly, this suspect is incredibly easy to identify. You've got the eyebrows, the mustache, his whole demeanor, the pinky ring. And she said the biggest break they can get is from someone who sees all that and says, "I know that guy." They don't want some internet detective making wild guesses from a blurry photo. They need someone who's seen him in person. A girlfriend who knows that mustache a little too well. A brother or sister who watched those exact eyebrows grow up. A coworker who's seen that tacky pinky ring from across the meeting room 100 times. Or a friend who's seen him walk into a room with that same creepy, unnerving confidence. So far, that person hasn't made the call. And literally every move the FBI is making right now is to get them to pick up the phone. But the most brilliant, game-changing move of the whole investigation didn't come from some boring press release or a cop briefing. It came from Savannah Guthrie herself, after she announced the family was putting up a $1 million reward, which, with other donations, ballooned to $1.2 million. Savannah hopped on Instagram and pulled off a genius move. She posted a simple tutorial video showing people exactly how to send an anonymous tip to the feds. Then she dropped a caption that said, "Tips can be anonymous. Reward can be paid in cash." Honestly, those might be the two most important sentences said out loud in this entire case, because they're aimed squarely at the person who knows something but has been too afraid to talk. The cops have pretty much admitted everywhere that they're worried people are too scared to get involved in such a massive case. The folks who could solve this whole thing are shaking in their boots. They're scared that calling the FBI about a case that's on every news channel in the country will blow up their lives, that their name will leak, and that coming forward will just paint a target on their back. Savannah's Instagram post, which sources say was planned with the FBI's input, just systematically tore down every one of those fears. Anonymous means nobody knows your name. Cash means no trip to the courthouse, no signing documents, no digital trail. NBC News reporter Liz Croce even spelled out how it works. A person with a good tip can meet the cops at some neutral spot and won't even have to show an ID. No news vans, no police stations, no records, just a quiet meeting, a fat stack of cash, and Nancy Guthrie finally being brought home. Now, hold on, because this is where the timeline of the investigation gets really crazy, and most people haven't caught on yet. Fox News Digital got its hands on and published some Google Trends data that showed something absolutely insane. Between June 21st and 28th of 2025, a full 7 months before Nancy Guthrie even disappeared, somebody in Arizona was searching for her home address in the Catalina foothills. 7 months ahead of time. Then, that same address was searched again using Google image search, like they were looking for photos or a layout of the house, in several different searches between March and November of 2025, and one last time on January 11th, 2026. And that specific date is no coincidence. January 11th is the very same day the FBI started asking neighbors for their doorbell camera videos. It's also the day a longtime resident of Catalina Foothills, a woman named Aldine Meister, saw a shady character lurking near NY's house right from her bathroom window. He had his hat pulled down low, was moving real slow, and seemed to be casing the entire street. And get this, it's one of only 2 dates that the cops singled out as being critical for surveillance in the whole investigation. Fast forward to sometime between December 13th and 20th, 2025, when some genius in Tucson Googled Savannah Guthrie salary. Not her mother, not the house, but the paycheck of one of the most famous TV anchors in the country. And investigators are working with only one theory here. This was a shopping trip for a target. Somebody spent months building a detailed file on her. They researched the home's location over the summer, circled back for another look in the fall, checked out her net worth in December, and then did an in-person walkthrough of the neighborhood in January, all culminating in them showing up on that porch on February 1st at 1:47 in the morning, just as the camera went dead. This was absolutely not a crime of passion. This was the grand finale of a 9-month-long setup, and the FBI's digital forensics nerds, who don't have to guess with public data, have legal warrants giving them direct access to the actual search history, complete with IP addresses and what device was used, and the exact location of the person typing, which means they might already have a name. Sheriff Nanos has been brutally honest about the mountain of data his team is digging through. Take the vehicle they caught on video about 2.5 miles from NY's place around 2:36 in the morning on February 1st. That time lines up perfectly with the window they think the abduction happened. He admitted that agents are comparing that one vehicle against hundreds of thousands of others that were driving around at that time. Hundreds of thousands. But then, former FBI agent Jennifer Coffender dropped a detail that completely changes the game. That neighborhood isn't a place you just happen to drive through. If you're in the Catalina foothills at that hour, you're there for a reason. Another retired FBI agent, Steve Moore, who you might have seen on CNN, laid out the logic perfectly. Because the area is so tucked away, investigators almost certainly have a complete roster of every car owned by the people who live there. Anything else that rolled into that neighborhood in the weeks leading up to it, and especially on that night, is a massive red flag, a puzzle piece that has to be explained, then either dismissed or chased down. That car in the Fox News clip, it might as well have a name attached to it already. And that brings us to the tip theory. It's the one thing every single expert who has seriously dug into this case has landed on, all on their own. Retired FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers put it bluntly to Parade magazine. He said the most realistic way this case gets solved is with a phone call, not some lone forensic miracle, not a lucky picture from a satellite. It's going to be a person who knows something and finally decides to talk. Rogers explained the simple math of a conspiracy. The longer a crime like this stays open, the more every person who knows about it becomes a huge liability to all the others. The pressure doesn't let up with time. It just keeps building. Former FBI agent Maureen O'Connell had a truly unforgettable way of putting it. She said anyone tied to this crime is basically sitting in an air fryer right now with the temperature rising. And the only question is who's going to be the first to jump out. Jennifer Coffender even sketched out the exact type of person the FBI is hoping will crack. She told Newsweek that in her professional view, the number one way this case breaks is when someone who knows the suspect personally comes forward. Maybe an angry girlfriend, or a family member who finally rediscovers their conscience, or maybe just someone who does the math on $1.2 million in tax-free cash and decides their loyalty has a price tag. Just imagine what that person is dealing with every single day when they wake up. They see the story on the news. They see the police sketch the eyebrows, the mustache of someone they know. They keep hearing that toll-free number repeated over and over. That secret you're holding on to, yeah. It's getting heavier by the second, isn't it? And now, there's a 7-figure payday with your name on it. Just sitting in a quiet little spot. You don't even need to show an ID. It's completely off the books. The FBI isn't yelling this on the news for everyone. No, this is a whisper, aimed directly at that one person who knows everything. And there's one last piece to the FBI's new game plan that explains why this case could suddenly just snap shut without any warning. The whole investigation has switched from using a shotgun to using a sniper rifle. In the beginning, the goal was to just throw the biggest net possible and see what they caught. Every camera, every chatty neighbor, every wild theory, every half-baked memory. Well, that party is officially over. The task force is now a small, elite unit of Puma County Sheriff's detectives and a sergeant, posted up full-time at the FBI's Tucson office right alongside the federal agents. Sergeant Aaron Cross of the Puma County Deputies Organization basically confirmed what Brian Anton was reporting, saying that the old everybody pile on approach has been replaced by a small, specialized crew that lives and breathes this case. They're not juggling a dozen other investigations. Their world revolves around this one. And that change in the setup tells you absolutely everything you need to know. You don't assemble a superhero squad for a single bad guy unless your forensic picture is crystal clear and your leads are so hot you can't afford any distractions. A retired FBI agent, Andrew Birnbaum, spilled the tea on what this stage of the game really looks like from the inside. It's agents getting cozy with their confidential informants to squeeze out every drop of intel. It's different teams sprinting down parallel tracks, chasing various streams of evidence at the same time. And it means they're finally past the mind-numbing early work of sorting junk and have moved on to the surgical precision of verifying, tracing, and closing the loop. The sheer math of what they're dealing with right now is legitimately insane. 10,000 hours of surveillance footage are being chewed through by both human analysts and fancy AI tech at the same time. They're running genetic genealogy tests on mixed DNA found at the crime scene to literally build a family tree right to the doorstep of whoever left their personal souvenirs in Nancy Guthrie's home. Walmart handed over the entire purchase history for every single Ozark Trail backpack they sold in that time frame. And those records, if the backpack was bought with anything other than a wad of cash, led straight to a name. They're crunching cell tower data from the Catalina foothills for both January 11th and February 1st, looking for any device that popped up on the grid on both of those days. And that Google Trends search history, whatever you might see publicly, you can bet has been torn apart in its real, raw form by the FBI's digital wizards, who have warrants that get them the real goods. We're talking full IP addresses and device IDs, all thanks to the legal fine print. The suspect's physical description is so sharp now that multiple retired cops have gone on record saying that someone watching the news right now absolutely knows who this person is. The forensic puzzle the investigators have built is way more complete than anything they've let the public see. And draped over all of it is a new tip strategy that is laser-focused, anonymous, and offers life-changing money. It's designed to tear down every single barrier that ever stood between the person with the answer and the phone call that finally ends this nightmare. Sheriff Chris Nanos put it in a way that just cuts through all the noise. Somebody out there knows who did this. This new message from the FBI isn't a flare gun showing they're lost. It isn't a sign the case is going cold. It is the most precise, most focused, and most impossible to ignore public plea this investigation has ever cooked up. It's aimed at exactly one person, in exactly the right language, with exactly the right motivation. Be the one that brings him in for her. Behind every unsolved mystery, there is a heavy, suffocating silence. Right now, someone is carrying a secret that belongs to Nancy Guthrie, a secret that grows heavier with every heartbeat. Loyalty to a predator is not a virtue. It is a cage that keeps a victim in the dark. Think of the details. Maybe you recognize those distinctive, uniquely arched eyebrows or that black mustache peeking from behind a mask. Perhaps you've seen that specific pinky ring across a meeting room and felt a sudden, inexplicable shiver of unease. We understand the fear that paralyzes you, the terror that coming forward will blow up your life or paint a target on your back. But the truth has found a new path: total anonymity. You can provide the missing piece and walk away with a life-changing $1.2 million in tax-free cash, no IDs, no digital trails, and no courthouses. The FBI isn't asking for a public hero. They are waiting for the one quiet voice that finally decides a human life is worth more than a monster's secret. Don't let this case go cold. Break the silence. Bring Nancy home.